Let's
Serena,
do it.
hey, a lot of people were surprised when you left. You said, though, Matt wasn't your person and you would have done a disservice by staying.
I've thought about it so much and I've just been like emotionally torn up over it.
I'm just disappointed, you know? That's not how I saw our journey ending.
What did you mean by that?
I think at that point in my journey, I had enough confidence and certainty that this was not going to be a forever thing, or at least I wasn't going to get to that place where I was confident it would be a forever thing by the end of that journey. And I felt that staying, knowing where I was at, knowing the doubts I was having, would not be fair to Matt, because he's on his journey to find his wife, and the other three women were in that place.
Where was your heart and where should it have been?
I think at that point we'd spent enough time together that I was really hopeful to be feeling I was either in love with him or was definitely going to fall in love with him. And I just wasn't. I was falling for him. I was falling in love with him. You saw me communicate that, and that was 100% honest. But that something was just missing for me from the relationship. And I don't know if it was the situation or him and I or something else, but I wanted to be 100% confident if I was going to accept an engagement. I wasn't.
When you went home for that home visit, were there things that your family said to you that weighed into this decision? Did your parents pull you aside and say, hey, I don't know if this is the right deal?
You know, what you guys didn't get to see was my family really liked Matt. Like, if I had fallen in love and had been there and been like, this is my dude and I'm getting engaged and we're gonna end up together, they would have been like, great, we really like him. I think seeing Matt and I interact, it was obvious that we had this natural chemistry, this natural connection. But when they sat down to talk to me, I struggled when I was trying to communicate where this relationship was going and where my feelings were. And they were like, so you're falling in love, but you're not in love. Are you gonna get there?
Do you love him? Like, do you love him? He, on paper and in my head, checks every single box. To me, it seems like there's just something missing.
They were asking those tough questions, knowing the timeline that I was under and how short of a timeline it is. And when I struggled to answer some of those questions, that's when they pried further. And that's when those doubts kind of started coming up from my gut.
Now, were you surprised? He cried. He was in it. How did you feel? And even when he saw you, you could see in last night's show, it looked like he still felt something. How did that make you feel?
I mean, it was really hard. I know that I struggled a ton making that decision, and the days leading up and the days after was very emotional about it. So to see that he was also emotional made it that much harder. You know, I care about him. I never wanted to hurt him the way I did, and it just made my heart break that much more about the situation. It was good to see him in person at the Women Tell All.
I was happy that, you know, that she had come to that conclusion and that she was going to be closer to finding someone that she was compatible with if it wasn't me. But it was hard.
Yeah, it was really hard for me too. And I felt being honest with you was the most respectful thing that I could do.
I think that we had an amazing connection and we definitely had chemistry, and that doesn't just go away just because we're not together anymore. So there's obviously still that connection between us. But I do hope he's found love and happiness with someone.
Who do you think he found love and happiness with? If you look at the last three women, Brie, Michelle, and Rachel, which one do you think he ended up with?
I mean, okay, if I'm going from a viewer perspective, because I'm watching this unfold just like everyone else,
Yep.
The only person we have seen him say, I'm falling for you, is Rachel.
Tonight just confirms that I'm falling for Rachel.
Okay, let's just playing it out. If it is Rachel, that is a heck of a conundrum that he is in right now, seeing what has happened since the show was shot.
Yeah, I mean, there's been a lot that's come out and so much that has unfolded within Bachelor Nation since the show has finished airing, even since the Women Tell All aired. I I'm sure that if they are together and if he has chosen her at the end of this, that is something that they'll have to address within their relationship, and they'll have to have some very honest and difficult conversations.
You posted that I stand with Rachel Lindsay after Chris Harrison's comment.
Where is this lens we're holding up? And was that lens available? And were we all looking through it in 2018?
Where do you stand on this subject now?
I mean, I do not condone or support racism whatsoever. I am continuing my education and doing my best to become anti-racist as one of the women of color and one of the women from this cast, which is incredibly diverse. We were very proud to stand in unity with Rachel Lindsay. Watching the interview was extremely upsetting, and she conducted herself with class and professionalism, having to sit there and conduct that interview. So yeah, I mean, I think it's shed a lot of light on issues in the franchise and beyond the franchise. And I think all I can do is hope for change and education.
As part of that change, would you want to become the Bachelorette?
You know, I can see how this journey works. And as much as it didn't work out for me this season, that's not to say that I'm not still looking for love and open to it and ready for it. So if that opportunity was presented to me, I would definitely consider it.
Let's say if you were the Bachelorette, would you welcome Chris Harrison to host that season?
With the Bachelorette season being so soon, I mean, they're filming it very short amount of time. I would struggle because the amount of work that needs to be done here, I feel more time would be needed. I would need to see the changes that have been happening in his life and the actions that he has taken and will be continuing to take moving forward to feel comfortable welcoming him into the Bachelorette season.
Emmanuel Ultro is going to step in for Chris in the next special. What do you think about that casting?
I think it's a really good choice. I didn't know much about him prior to him being cast and have done a little digging. He seems extremely qualified to be conducting these very difficult conversations that I'm hoping will be had at after the final rose. He seems to be an incredible advocate. I'm glad they chose a Black individual to be sitting down and discussing the racism within the franchise with Matt and the other women that will be present.
Do you think he should stay if this goes well?
I don't see why not. I mean, I know there are people out there that feel very connected and adamant about Chris Harrison. I think that Chris has a lot of work to do, and he has to put in that work, and that's not an overnight thing. That is a long-term process of education and moving from a state of ignorance. And if Emmanuel does a great job, I could see him being a very good fit.
Have you had a chance to discuss it with some of the other ladies?
Yeah, there's been some discussion. I mean, we saw each other at the Women Tell All, and we've definitely kept in touch. A lot of us are quite close friends. And we're exhausted. We're tired. It's been a lot this season. It feels constant and never ending and a lot of disappointment. But we are adamant to continue the fight and to continue to use our voices to support Rachel Lindsay throughout this, as well as the people of color within this franchise, and to continue that fight against racism.
Have you had a chance to talk to Rachel?
I've spoken to Rachel very briefly a couple times since the season ended. I saw her statement and as well as her video that she posted on her platform.
Please stop saying that I did nothing wrong. That's not true.
I respect her for speaking out and taking accountability for her actions, for, saying that she is going to do better and she's going to do the work. And I respect her for saying, do not defend me, because what she did was wrong. And no one should be defending those racist actions that have come out. I am really looking forward to her continuing that work. And I think that she's got a great platform to be able to speak out and educate people on that. And I've seen her do that, and I'm hopeful that she will continue to do that moving forward.
As a woman of color, where do you think the franchise goes from here? What's the next step that will satisfy both sides of this argument?
I think there's so many answers to that question.
Yeah.
This starts with not saying we need to stop having like the first this Bachelor, the first that Bachelor. The fact that we're just having the first Bachelor is an issue in itself and long overdue. I am appreciative for the movement towards more diversity this season, and I would love to see that continue on. However, I think that changes in regards to diversity need to be included not only on camera, but off camera. It needs to be kind of within the core of the franchise, and that change, again, isn't going to be overnight, but it needs to be constant. And we've been taking a lot of baby steps, every couple years, and there needs to be leaps taken on a regular basis moving forward.